huddle, and he asked the guys if they wanted me to break the record. And he said they did, and they all agreed that they would try to help me break the record. And so they started passing me the ball every possession, and I was able to get a shot up most every possession, which enabled me to have the 75 points. And just playing to get with great teammates and having a great coach was very fortunate for me.
Jimmy Joe Robinson, your coach at Clovis, legendary coach, right? Coach Robinson, when I did the story, I told you I enjoyed my time speaking with him. We're both basketball guys, Coach, right? We love basketball. Coach Robinson remembered every story about you, and it amazed me, right? And when I told you when he was done, and that southeastern drawl of his, he'd say, "Can I tell you another?" And I'd say, "Absolutely." He had about 10 more stories that he said. You know, your '79 team beat Las Cruces Mayfield for the championship 70-55. Your team averaged 91 points that year. And again, for all viewers listening and watching, no 3-point shots, right? You and Nelson Franz, according to Marty Seiss, who's one of the basketball historians in the state of New Mexico, he feels like you and Nelson are definitely one of the top backcourts in the state's history. Hobbs averaged 114 in 1970, right? Clovis averages 91 in 1979. You Jeff Fabian, Polar Bear Anderson. You've got what Coach Robinson feels is a team that ranks right up there with the Hobbs Eagles, right? Talk a little bit about that team, because 91 points a game at that time, again without 3-point shots. You and Nelson Franz, Jeff Fabian, Polar Bear Anderson. Talk about that team.
Yeah, that was really, really a fun team to play on. The problem for all those other guys was I would throw the ball. If I threw the ball into Nelson, he'd go down and shoot. Or if he threw it into me, I'd go down and shoot. So the guys on our team, they didn't get a chance to get up many shots, but we had a really, really good team. Polar Bear Anderson, he was 6'7", really good on the inside. We had Mike Grant, who was about 6'5", Lynn Colberth, about 6'4", 6'5". Of course, Jeff Fabian, James Wilkerson, John Robbins was on that team as a sophomore, and just had a really, really good team. Matter of fact, I don't know if Coach Robinson told the story or not, but 3 of our players had been suspended the week we played Hobbs, and we went down to Hobbs, and Nelson and I were the only 2 starters to play in that game, and we ended up beating Hobbs at Hobbs in that game. And in the fourth quarter, with about 4 minutes left, I went down and hit my head on the floor and split my head open, and after the game had to go get 15 stitches put in my head. But that's one of the most memorable games that I ever played in my basketball career.
Actually, he did tell that story. Nelson Franz said that he had to ask your dad if you could come back in the game, and your dad said it was okay. And with blood dripping, Nelson lined you up for the free throws, and you made the 2 free throws to seal the game. He did mention that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he had to line me up, but my dad did say it was okay. I remember the doctor from Hobbs came down and he looked at the cut on my head and he said, no, he can't play. And, back in those days, they didn't worry too much about blood being on the court and being on the players and on the floor and that kind of stuff. And my dad said, well, he can play if he wants to play. And I said, yeah, I want to play.
Who's gonna say no, right? Who's
Right.
gonna say no? And no, it sounded better for the story. Maybe he didn't have to line you up, but it sounded good. I had to line him up, blood dripping, right? We Hollywooded it up a little bit, but it sounded good.
Yeah.
Bubba, that brings us to a point. The legendary Hobbs team, right? In 1980, you came up short against Hobbs, right? You averaged 33.8 as a senior. And I remember, I'm a senior with you, right? We played against each other in the North-South All-Star game. And when people forget, I tell people the South beat us 120-113 without 3-point shots, right? You had 29, and Wallace Williams, a fantastic player, right? Fantastic
Right.
player, an even better person, right?
Right.
Wallace had 28. You guys killed us, man. But 120-113 without 3-point shots, and people are like, "There's no way," and it happened. But tell us some more, a little bit about those Hobbs games, because those are legendary, right? Wallace Williams said the rule with Coach Tasker: if they fouled you, you came out of the game. That Wallace, who's coaching at Cleveland here in New Mexico, said that was the rule. Talk a little bit about those legendary Hobbs games.
Those were really fun games. Hobbs had a really, really good team. Wallace was a great player. Wallace was as quick as you could be, really get up and down the floor, take the ball to the basket, and could shoot the ball as well. And along with him was Mike Smith, who was a really, really good guard as well. And on that same team, they had Tony Benford, who played with me at Texas Tech, and they had Vince Taylor, who played with me at Texas Tech. So they had four Division I players. Mike initially went to Tulsa to play for Nolan Richardson, and of course Wallace went to UNM to play for Coach Colson there for the Lobos. But really, really good games. The first time we played them, in '79, I was the only player back that played any minutes, and so we had to play them with a whole new group of kids. And we weren't as big, weren't as athletic, weren't as tall, but we were good. And we ended up beating Hobbs the first time we played him at our place. And I ended up fouling out. I'd gotten sick and had to sit out for a week or so and was really weak. And I ended up fouling out, but our team pulled us through and we won that game. But we ended up losing 4 more games to them that year, with the one in the state championship game. We got way down early in the state championship game and made a great comeback. And I think we got close to being tied there near the end, but they went ahead and beat us. But that was a great Hobbs team. It was really fun playing them in the pit. I think in the first quarter, I think they shut me out. I don't think I had a point in the first quarter, but I ended up with 40 that night. So I got it going there for a little bit, and really fun game and great atmosphere, and just a nice place playing a state championship game. Unfortunately, we lost.
Well, my understanding was, and I heard this from, Wallace, they also had Jay Willman. Jay Willman played in the North-South All-Star game too, and Jay Willman was a heck of a player, man. He really was. So that team, and I think when I think back to Hobbs, the days, you still hear that song, "The Eagles on the Floor," their band. I still hear the band, right? Because they're in the pit every year. I ref Hobbs Clovis 2001 state championship, right? So, the Hobbs tradition. My understanding was, you mentioned you can get a point in the first quarter, but you heat it up like you normally do. And my understanding was you were telling the Hobbs guys, "Hey, man, I'm going to shoot from here, and you can't stop it." That's my understanding. From a couple of the Hobbs guys. And you know what? Hey, if you could talk trash and back it up, why not? And they knew eventually you were going to get warm, right? It's a heck of a final, right? Full house at the pit, right? A heck of a final. We got about a couple minutes left in this segment, but real quick, I wanted to ask you also won 2 titles as the head coach at Artesia in 1995 and 1997. What did those mean to you here? Again, those are big, man. Artesia's more known for football prowess, right? You won some basketball championships there. What did that mean to you?
Oh, that meant a ton to me. Getting a chance to come back to the pit as a coach rather than a player. And in '95, I don't know if you remember this, but in the semifinal game, we were playing Grants, and we were down by 10 with 50 seconds left in the game, and came back and won that game there, and then went on and played Academy, who'd already won 6 straight state championships, and we beat them in the championship game. And it was kind of a team that really put everything together right at the end. Lovington was in our district at that time, and they had Taman Domzalski, who went on to play at Duke, and he had not yet transferred to the Mexico Military Institute. And so they kind of dominated our district, but they ended up getting upset by Academy in the semifinals. And that Grants game is a game I'll never forget. Mm-hmm. And it gave a lot of lessons to the kids as well, because it would have been easy for the kids to give up, but they never gave up, and they kept trying, and they executed perfectly down towards the end. And we had a little bit of luck on our side, and ended up winning that game. And that was a very great memory of mine there in the pit.
What a comeback. I remember that comeback. I do remember the press conference, you up in the press room later. Again, it's a tough Artesia. Man, 30 championships in football, 30. So they don't have a lot of basketball success, and you won 2 titles there. Again, we could go over this, basketball life, Bubba Jennings. And something you love, right? It's a game that you love. And how many moments have you had as a player, as a coach, right? We're going to get into this the second segment. You also coached with the legendary Bob Knight. And Coach Knight, controversial sometimes, right? Going to tell you what he thinks at all times. And if you don't like it, tough, right? So we got to ask you about Coach Knight for sure, because what a colorful character he's been, was in the game of basketball. There was rumored for a while here when he might come here. He had the whole town in a lather here in Albuquerque, and I kind of always figured he was going to come. He was just kind of using that as some leverage at Indiana, right? But the town here for about a week, it's all you heard. Night, right? I mean, yeah, and he didn't end up coming. Bubba, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about your coaching career at Texas Tech at Peaster and where you are right now after these messages on the sports desk.
Okay, thank you.
Lazos, Gedman, Martin, 3-ball. Yep. Love back up with the ball. Beautiful shot. I tell you what, it's Ava Love. This has been her quarter.
Julia Espinosa with a good pass from Lee, and she makes the layup, and she is fouled.
To Gossett.
They're not the double team. Rerun's got the double team.
Leaves it underneath for Gossett, and the layup and the foul. Chance at a three-point play. Jack Cuts, beautiful pass. Great ball movement, and Rivera has his first 2 of the game. Eva Love, top of the key. Nice shot by Love. The high screens. Knocked away by Hill, who takes it up with the left hand and scores. Andrew Hill has 14 in the game. Big turn. Hold out. Rebound, Gossett. He saves it to Perez. He's got Amos in front of the pack, wide open on the layup, the block, but the putback for Perez. To 8, or rather 7. And Ashton Capps, that's 3 steals that led to buckets, make it 4, yes! Timeout taken by Rio Grande, you got Nice move from Hill, and he throws it down! Andrew Hill ties the game at 12.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
We here at Clark's Pet Emporium welcome you to bring in your pets. We know that having your pet with you makes the experience of shopping for them even better. And we welcome you to bring your kids also. Clark's Pet Emporium, your pet's second best friend.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk, live on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Today's special guest, the legendary Bubba Jennings, former Clovis superstar, played at Texas Tech as well. And again, Bubba, man, thanks for sharing some time with us. It's really great to have you on.
Thank you, Ed. It's good to be on. Like I said before, it's good to have a chance to say some words about the state of New Mexico and basketball there and everything that's gone on kind of in my life in basketball in the state.
You know, Bubba, I want to ask you this because your dad, Brooks Jennings, who was one of the best referees in the state. Your dad, a very classy man, and averaged 15.3 points for Eastern New Mexico when he played. And in his story, the story that I wrote about you, he mentioned you playing with him, and finally, I think you beat him in 8th grade. I think that was the story. You finally beat him one-on-one. Took my son a little bit longer to beat me, as we were just talking about that the other day. He played me when he was 14, and he lost, and he kicked the ball down the street. We're still laughing about that. You always want to beat your dad or your brother, right? And
Right.
eventually, of course, he killed me. When I was 52, I always have to remind his son I was an old man by then. But those stories, they travel well. One of the things your dad taught you, right? And this is a story. This part of the story that we wrote about in Enchantment Sports was shooting over rackets. Talk a little bit about that, because I thought your dad had an ingenious idea way back then to shoot over defense. We're always saying shoot over length, right? So your dad developed a racket, shooting over rackets. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was real interesting. My dad and I were real competitive against each other, and he'd been a good college basketball player, and I was kind of developing into a player, and so we'd play one-on-one all the time. And like I say, when I got to be about an eighth grader, I think I started beating him pretty regular. He started getting older, and I started getting better, and so he got the tennis rackets. And at first, he cut off the handle so the racket was shorter, and he would be on defense and I would be on offense, and we played a 15. If I scored, I got a point. If he stopped me, he got a point. And we played the best out of 7. And it was really tough at the beginning, and then I figured out, how I had to work and what kind of moves I had to make and how quick I had to be to get shots off and also have accuracy. And then as I got better and older, and he continued to get older, he extended those rackets and they became regular tennis rackets. And we did that all the way through my college career, and that helped me tremendously. I was really lucky growing up in Clovis because it was a really athletically oriented town, and I had keys to the gym, could go into the gym anytime I wanted to, and had many friends that played with me along the way. And we spent hours and hours and hours. I mean, every Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon during basketball season and out of season, we would all go to the gym and play pickup basketball. And so it was just a great opportunity for me at that time to develop into a good basketball player.
Well, Jim Rat, somebody that loved the game. We got some pictures coming up here in a minute. We'll get up. As a Texas Tech Red Raider, you were the 1985 Southwestern Conference Player of the Year, and your dad reminded you at Bubba Jennings Day to thank Akeem Olajuwon, who went pro. And I remember the story, that part of the story. Akeem Olajuwon went pro, and you were the Southwestern Conference Player of the Year. Played as a Red Raider, 1,724 points, 378 assists, 149 steals. You were drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in the 5th round. After your playing career was over, and that was a solid career at Texas Tech, you also played North Carolina 1 year, and with Michael Jordan. You mentioned Jordan didn't hurt you that much. Vince Taylor guarded him, I believe. Now, you're not about to say Vince Taylor shut down Michael Jordan, are you?
No, we didn't shut him down. We just contained him. The problem with them was they had so many big guys, Sam Perkins and I don't remember the other guys' names, but the two Doherty guys, Matt, and I don't remember the other one's name, but they were Brad Doherty. Yeah, they were really, really good players and really big and played well as a team. And, we were kind of struggling at that time. We were very young, and I played them over in Hawaii in the tournament. They had that tournament on the other day, and I don't know if you saw, but Hawaii hit a last-second shot to beat to beat SMU in that game there. But I remember playing in that tournament. That was a lot of fun. Playing against Olajuwon and Drexler, when Drexler was at Houston, those were fun games as well. And there's no way I would have been the Player of the Year if Olajuwon would have stayed in the league.
Again, things happen, and that's an honor that still counts. You coached at Texas Tech, we mentioned, with the legendary Bob Knight for 7 years. What was your time? Again, Coach Knight had come from Indiana. He had finished at Indiana and coached at Texas Tech there. And Coach Knight, I read A Season on the Brink, right? Coach Knight has an amazing basketball background, brains for the game, right? Wants to graduate his kids. He did. They graduate, right? They graduated. Controversial. He's gonna tell you the way he thinks, right? There's no question about it. He doesn't pull punches. Talk a little bit about your time with him, and do you have a Knight story that stands out in your mind?
Well, I'm very thankful to Coach Knight that he gave me the opportunity to work with him on his staff. It was a lot of fun. The first year, I'm not going to lie about it. We were all on pins and needles the first year. You got used to it. Very, very intense, very intelligent person, the most intelligent person I've ever been around. He was constantly reading. And the one story I have, it's kind of funny, and it involves New Mexico. He and I were driving from Lubbock over to Roswell. We were recruiting Curtis Marshall from New Mexico Military Institute. And so I'm driving his wife's Lexus over there to Roswell from Lubbock, and New Mexico's mostly 2-lane highways. And so I'm slowing down, and he's sleeping over in the passenger side, and he wakes up and he said, why don't you pass this person? I said, well, Coach, there's a car coming over there. I can't pass him right now. He looks over on the right side of the road, and he said, why don't you pass him over here on the right? And I said, well, I said, that's against the law. And he said, well, you're one of the greatest players to ever play in the state of New Mexico. He said, why don't you just carry a newspaper article in your wallet, and when they pull you over, just show them that article, and then they'll let you go. And I said, well, Coach, I have better than that. And he said, what do you have? And I said, I have you in here.
You don't need the article, right? Right. I mean, right. As famous as Bubba Jennings is, and he's famous, Bob Knight supersedes that famousness, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did he say about that?
He just went back to sleep. He didn't say anything.
That is hilarious. There's a great picture of you there in the state tournament. Some great pictures we got from your sister, Mitzi. Great pictures, Coach. Again, that shooting form. And I got to tell this story. You and I competed against each other in the hot shot competition, right? I thought, hey, man, I got it made. I got to go to the pit, right? I'll win there, and I'll go to Phoenix. And it was you. And I didn't see Phoenix. That's all I remember, man. So, again, that shooting, it's legendary. That's a great Bobby Knight story, Coach. Talk a little bit about your coaching career now, what you're doing now. You coached at Peaster for a while, and now you're coaching – and you won the junior college or the Baptist championship last year at Arlington. Talk a little bit about Peaster first, and then where you are now with your coaching career.
Yeah, Peaster's a little small 3A town located a little bit north of Weatherford, kind of south of the Metroplex here. And I went there. I was there for 3 years, had 3 really good teams. My second year there, we qualified for the state tournament, played in the state tournament. That was the year of COVID, and our game was the last game. They canceled the state tournament after our game. We played San Antonio Cole. They had a 7-footer who is now playing at USC. But we got a chance to go and play. Really enjoyed that. We were 34-6 that year. And so the next year was the big COVID year, and our superintendent allowed us to come to school from day one. We never missed a day of school during that time, and I kind of set up the schedule to play all the 6A schools we could and the 5A schools, and had a really good team. Had all the players back from the past year except for one. Did really well, but then we got upset in the regional semifinals. Shallow Water beat us in the regional semifinals, and that was a big disappointment. I think we were 26-5 that year. The previous year we're 34-6, and so had a good time there. Really enjoyed that. Then moved on to Arlington Baptist. This is my second year at Arlington Baptist, but we won the National Christian College Athletic Association national tournament last year. That was a real joy for us. We played in Joplin, Missouri, and played really well. Played a team out of Los Angeles in the championship game, and they were really good. And we ended up playing really well and upsetting them and winning the national championship, which was great for our kids. And so this year we've gone through the first semester playing Division I and Division II teams, and now the second semester we'll get to play in our league and see how things come out there.
Got about a minute left, Bubba. And, what do you think the prospects for your team are this year? And you won the championship, and that's always hard. And you enjoy those championships, right? Because they're hard to come by. What are your prospects for this year's team?
Well, I'm really excited about our team this year. We've got a lot of young kids. I tell the kids when I'm recruiting them, especially if it's a little guard, it's always kind of a dream of mine to play 5 players under 6 foot and play really fast and to press and to really push the ball, penetrate and pitch and shoot a lot of threes. And I think we're going to try to get to that point here in the second semester. We do have a pretty good big guy, Davion Stafford, about 6'5", and he scores really well around the basket. But I kind of like that small ball deal, and really get after you defensively, push the ball offensively, penetrate, kick it out, shoot threes. And to me, that's a really, really fun way to play. That's kind of how we were in 1980, my team, that we weren't as big as the team in 79.
Bob, I'll tell you what, imagine what we talked about this, what you could have done with 3-point shots. Wow. That's all we can do is imagine. You did great without them. Bubba Jennings, one more thing. Anything you want to say to the state of New Mexico. You're a New Mexico legend. We appreciate you being on the show with us. We don't get to visit often. We'll get you back on for sure. Any parting words you want to say to the state of New Mexico?
Just want to say thank you for all the support throughout the years. Really enjoyed my time there. And thanks for being such great basketball fans.
For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.